Hello and welcome to the Spark Change podcast. I'm Denise Miller. I'm the advocacy coordinator for Firesteel, which is a network of Washington YWCAs committed to ending homelessness through innovative advocacy.
And I'm Erin Murphy, and I am the Director of Community Engagement for the YWCA Seattle King Snohomish.
Yep, and today we are talking about blogging. Now, this isn't exactly cutting-edge technology, but we were getting some questions about it when we recently led a workshop about social media at the Conference on Ending Homelessness. So we thought it would merit a little chat on this podcast.
Yeah, I had a number of people in my group ask some specific questions, especially around whether you should start a blog or not, and then once you have a blog, just some best practices. So wanted to cover some of those today. So I think the number one reason for not having a blog, while having a blog is fantastic, it is a lot of work, and if you can't do it well, don't do it at all. So I think the most important thing to consider and ask yourself right off the bat is, do I or my organization have the time and capacity to do this? Because if you can't do it consistently, you probably shouldn't do it and spend your time elsewhere. But if the answer is actually yes, and maybe as we talk through more of blogging in this podcast, you'll have a better understanding of whether you would have capacity or not. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, we've kind of given you the big warning about what not to do it.
Now the positives.
Exactly. Some reasons that you might want to do it are that it can be a good marketing tool. It can draw people into your website and help them understand your organization or your cause and your mission.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
and you may be able to reach an entirely different audience than you would if you're posting on Twitter or Facebook or even your website. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's possible that some of the things that you might be posting about in your blog, just the act of doing that could be furthering your mission, right? So for us, we're really interested in giving a voice to people who have experienced homelessness and giving them an opportunity to share their story. And so when we post that on our blog, it's not marketing, although it might be helping people come to our website and know more about Firesteel, but that simple act is actually what we're about.
Yeah, exactly. I think it can be really empowering, both for people who are reading it and feeling like they're learning a lot. That can be empowering, just education. But then for people who are sharing their own stories, oftentimes for the very first time about homelessness, that's a whole nother kind of empowerment. So yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so I wanted to just share a couple examples of blogs that we like. I was recently introduced to one called Nonprofit with Balls. It's a local one that's written by Vu Lee, who does some really great work here in Seattle. And I like it because it's hilarious. It's really personal, and he just has an amazing voice and just a terrific sense of humor. So I'd recommend checking that one out. We'll link to it on our blog, but it's nonprofitwithballs.com.
Yeah. A lot of my favorite blogs really have nothing to do content-wise with our blog, but I think, again, best practices, no matter what the content is, you can have takeaways. So I totally love following food blogs. One of my favorites is a blog called 101 Cookbooks. We can link to that as well. I think that's awesome because even the recipes that are shared are very much storytelling. I feel like I know the author and chef really well, and then, of course, the food photography is gorgeous. So the power of good images really matters. Another blog that I really like, I also just do a lot of reading on social justice and even things around theology and how that contributes to social justice. So I follow a blogger called Rachel Held Evans really closely, and she has done some really fantastic things just generating content from her community. So asking questions of her community all the time. And then I've learned a lot about creating series. So how do you really go deeper and give your community content that they're asking for? So I think a lot of what we've done on our blog has been things that I've learned well from that particular blogger.
Great. So yeah, so one thing you've probably been hearing as we were talking about these blogs that we like is that the content is very engaging and it's telling a story, right? So that's really important. And then we're also talking about like series and trying to really present compelling information to the audience. So it's great to have a strategy if you decide to launch a blog. Really sit down with other staff or maybe constituents and think about what that audience wants to read about and what would really draw them in and add value to their lives. So you can have a big brainstorm meeting, and if it's right to start a blog, then you'll probably have lots of ideas and can come up with a content strategy, maybe even for the first year.
Yeah, and it can start off so incredibly simple. When you start off at the beginning, you may not necessarily know your audience and your community that well yet because it might take some time to grow. So that's a good time for experimenting and learning who your community is. I think another really important thing to do is to establish expectations for your readers and your community, and that means consistency. So again, whatever your goals are and your strategy based on your time ability as well, you really should strive to set those expectations in terms of, are you going to post just once a month? If so, when is that so people can expect that? Or are you going to post up to 2 or 3 times a week? Whatever it is, you need to make sure that you can deliver so people know what to expect and you're meeting those expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, timeliness and freshness is important. You don't want to necessarily keep telling the same story over and over, and it's great if you can find things that are happening in the world around you and comment on those through the lens of whatever your cause is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also really important to develop your own unique voice or style, because your readers are going to come to expect that sort of style and filter as well. So one really good tactic for maybe, figuring out what that is and establishing it in the beginning, but then holding true to that throughout is to maybe consider creating a mission statement for your blog. We create mission statements for our nonprofits, all these different things that we do, and so if a blog really is going to kind of have a life of its own, that might be a really good exercise to do.
Absolutely. And then just in terms, we want to just kind of give you a few content ideas. Although I recommend just finding blogs that you think are good and seeing what variety of content they're posting to give you ideas for what you might want to post on yours. But just some thoughts, or you can preview events that are coming up in your community. You can report on things that happened. You can link to articles and share your perspective on those things. You can comment on pop culture or other things happening in the news. And then, as we often do, invite people in your community to contribute, because that can really help if you're as busy as most nonprofits are. Inviting others can be, help both the time burden and also add, interesting perspectives to your blog.
And whether those contributing writers are just individuals or maybe an individual representing an organization, that means they have a whole nother social network that you may not already be connected to. So whenever that content is ready to be shared, not only will you be sharing it with your existing blog community, but they're probably going to be excited and want to share it with their own community. So it's just a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've kind of touched a little bit on promotion and outreach with the blog. So we promote our blog content on social media, and we're on a number of platforms. We're on Twitter and Facebook and Google+. So those are all great places to share that content. We also have an email sign-up option, so people can get our blog delivered to their inbox the day that we post it. And a number of people really like that because they don't have to remember to check back on our website as regularly.
It just shows up in your inbox, I totally blanked on what I was going to say.
I'm sure it was very important.
No, I'm sure. It just flew away.
It'll come back to you.
This is why blog writing is also a great way to take your time, and you can have it perfect by the time you deliver it to people.
Exactly. So you can also kind of cross-pollinate. If you visit other blogs that are related to your cause, you can, leave them comments, participate in that whole ecosystem of blogs and social media, and that can be a way to, let people know that you're also writing about similar things and that they might want to check out a related post that you've posted.
And I'll just say, one of our primary content strategies is for our blog. Our blog actually is the primary content driver for all of our other social accounts. So it doesn't have to be that way, but because our blog is so time intensive and we do so much original content, that tends to be the majority of what we share across Facebook and Twitter and so forth in terms of original content. So that's just a choice that we've made.
Absolutely. And so just a couple of thoughts on design. Your blog, above all, should be simple. It should be easy to access. It should be easy to read.
It should be pretty. People like to see pretty, good-looking things. Yeah.
Absolutely. We love to include lots of images and videos and other kinds of interesting content with our blog, because let's take advantage of this medium. We have the opportunity to do that on these websites. So let's make it interesting and engaging.
Absolutely. I think clarity is really important too, so doing things like putting captions under your photos so people know what they are looking at. We love to hyperlink as well. I think that absolutely is part of just like functional design. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then I always recommend having your blog not be like a separate website that people have to find, but actually integrated into your organization's website. That will help with search engine optimization. So you're creating all this good content. You want it to all be linked together and tied together with your overall organization website.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think... Oh, go ahead, Denise.
I was going to skip ahead to evaluation.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, so we've talked about content, we've talked about design, you've got to promote so people know there's good stuff there to read, and then it's really important to evaluate and to analyze what's working and what isn't so you can keep doing what is working and grow your community.
Exactly. So you can set up a plan to measure, are you meeting your quantitative goals? So that might be how many hits the website's getting and how many comments you're getting and things like that. Also across social, are you getting more likes on your Facebook page or more Twitter followers? Are people retweeting or posting? And then also think about your more qualitative
it's really
goals.
important.
So yeah, are people coming up to you at meetings and saying, "Oh my gosh, I loved your blog post"? That's part of it too.
Yeah, or saying, "I have an idea for a blog post." Well, we love hearing that.
Absolutely. Hint, hint.
Yeah. Anybody?
Yeah. But yeah, the most important thing is once you feel that you are able to commit, just go for it and experiment and have fun with it. Because if you have fun doing it, and that'll show, and people will be drawn to it as well.
It's so true. It's so true. It'll come through. So those are our thoughts on blogging. If you are someone who is already experimenting with blogging, has some takeaways, or you're going to do it soon and you'd like to share your journey as you do it, please, we want to hear. So you can share us your thoughts by leaving a comment on our website. That is firesteelwa.org. Or you can also find us and comment on lots of different social spaces, such as Facebook or YouTube, or tweet at us at firesteelwa.
Great. We also want to make sure that everyone knows that this podcast, the Spark Change podcast, is available as a video podcast on YouTube. It's also an audio podcast, so you can subscribe on iTunes, or you can listen on SoundCloud. We're everywhere. We're trying to make it easy for you.
Yeah, and I would say share the word with your friends and your colleagues about this podcast as well. At the same workshop where we got questions on blogging, a lot of people had lots of different questions, and about half of them I thought, oh my gosh, we've totally done a podcast on that. So spread the word so we can grow this community as well. So thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.